June 24th, 2021, 6:28 a.m. in the pre-market, and I am short, trying to take this trade down to flush this liquidity here to the left. We'll see what happens if we can see some buyers coming in here, but I've already taken my risk off because we are sitting at the overnight low. So we've broken through that area of liquidity here, and now we're seeing if we can hold this area on a push back up. Hold this volume. My stop is going to be right back behind this bar high here, this low volume node here, and we see if we can hold that and continue to move down. Instead of going break even here, that doesn't really make sense because the volume here is likely to return here. So again, a stop at this low volume node at 69 makes sense. We did get a push down below these lows, so typically that is a reasonable move to break even, but no reason to move to break even because a pullback to this area and this volume is likely. So I'm gonna hold it with a little bit of risk here. And this is my area to flush this liquidity here. So a little bit beyond this 50, probably to this low volume area around 42 would be a good target. The 50 is going to be a reaction. There's size sitting on the bid at 72.50, but that's probably not going to be that much of an issue, and I want to see this area go. So we're going to see what happens right here as we push and test that number. Generally, I would probably take it off in front of that 50, but because we do have this resting liquidity here, all of these untested bar lows, this low tick here as well at 48. So, but I'm going to manage it here pretty tight. And here we go. Well, let's see what happens when we get down there. And I also don't want to see this come all the way back up to fill in this space here. I mean, retest to the 57 is very likely, so I'll let it get there. But now this is gone. So these blue lines here are what I'm shooting for. So here we are right at the 50. And we can see there was a reaction here right at the 50 here. Size coming in here, but no really sharp rejection. So again, I'm going to let this work out and see if we can push through this. We can see here on the dome, this is that resting bid, and we tend to see this a lot. So no reason to say that that's not going to trade. There's no sharp rejection, just like these lows. I tried to get in. Actually, that's not true. I didn't try, but I wanted to be short here at this 74, and I passed on this trade because I'm saying I don't want to be in and selling the lows, but this was a real weak low here. So, and now this is the part where it gets uncomfortable. Does it come all the way back and take me out? I really hope not, because I could have taken it off at 51 right there in front of that round number. But I still expect this to go. I expect it to go, but the question is, will it go before coming back up and taking me out? So this is kind of a little retrace back up into this area, into these untested bar lows here. So that's kind of, that meets my expectation, and that was totally normal. So now we'll want to see what happens when we come down and retest, because we did put in some volume, and now we're above this volume, so got to be a little cautious of that. So far I survived by one tick, but this isn't looking good to survive now. Maybe I get lucky here, but I really hope so. It's unfortunate, when I see a 14 tick trade come all the way back and take me out, but I am thinking that we're going to come back, we're going to come down and flush that. It's a fine line, managing these trades and managing them too tightly and not giving them a little bit of time to to move and through their rotations, but it's frustrating to see a lot of my trades end up going 10, 15, or 19. I had a trade go 19 ticks in my favor, and then I only took it off for 4. So that's a similar situation to what we're looking at now, and this one too is kind of sitting and looking precarious as far as coming back and taking me out, and it's looking like it's gonna fully expect to get taken out of this trade now for a +1. But the only thing I can say is that we did pull back to this volume here. We have this low volume node here, and so now this is not looking too good anymore. Gotta get lucky, but this is our first test of this volume now into here. But we can see this is a super weak area here. Acceptance of price. I still definitely like the short. The question is, can I survive the pullback? This is acceptance of price here. There's no strong rejection. There's a little bit here put in with this volume, but now we've tested this, come back up, and now this is all acceptance of price. This is fair price. This is balance. So to think that we won't see a lower test to flush this liquidity is pretty unlikely. Will it happen in the next 15 minutes before the open? That's hard to say. Will I survive the pullback? It's also hard to say. I have no expectations on that. So now we just got to get lucky, break down below these lows, and hold this structure here. So that's looking good. Now here we have this. This is what I'm looking at on the dome here. I want to flash this over here. 72.50. Now all that volume is actually pulled, and it looks like it's going to trade. We'll see what happens when we move down below that. Looking for the flush below that area. Is it gonna turn around here? I think that's super unlikely. But now we need to hold this structure here. But it's looking like it's gonna be definitely looking like it's gonna be stubborn. Anywhere in the 20 tick plus range at that'll be 44. I'll be looking to manage this and lock something in here for sure. Seeing if we can move lower though. I'm going to. We got a lot heavy volume coming in here now. See if we can push below it, and then I'll put my stop behind that volume at about 45, 44. This is the uncomfortable part here of the trade, managing the winner. But it's just looking like it wants to keep going. It's real heavy. There's the 45s, 44s trading there. Those lows taken out now, so I'll be looking to definitely manage this, because if there's a lot of heavy volume going to come in here, we had previous buying and an area of liquidity now flushed there, so it needs to hold this area for me to be comfortable in holding this trade. Can put my stop anywhere in here in that 48, 49 area, but I want to give it just a little bit of room to go. This volume here is what I'm hoping. This low volume area, 49, would be a good place for my stop, but real tempting. Look at all this size here. There's a ton of size on the bid at 41 and 40. Let's see if that can trade. So it's reloading, and it's going. There, that's gone now. I locked in 20 here now, and now we'll see if this. We got real heavy volume coming in now. I'd like to see if we can get one more flush down. We're also coming to this previous day's point of control at the 30, so that'd be a pretty good area. But there's really nothing, not too much in my way to not see the 27, and that's this area here, this demand zone. Let's see if we can take it off at the 28 in front of that area. No real large size. There's some 153 contracts at the 23. So that is a likely area of a reaction. And that coincides right with our demand area here as well. But this is kind of working out really nicely. I'm going to look to take off 30 ticks here. See if we can get that last final push. Let's see if we can get it. Come on. Let's see if it can go here. It's getting a little sticky down here. See, this is just a large size coming in, continuing to come in here. I need that last little push here. Let's see if we can get it come through there. I locked in. I'm at 37 here. Definitely volume coming in at the 34. We need to go. Don't need to go, but we could definitely see a retrace. I don't want to see all this kind of evaporate on this trade, so a retrace up would be not good for me. So I just got taken out at 40, which maybe is managing a little tight because we see this real heavy, this large block of volume here. But that looks like that was a real good exit. So cool trade to get documented on here. Now we're just ripping higher. So that got real heavy down there, and I just won't see it flush. But the initial trade, the initial trade was to break this liquidity here. And where did we come to? Right down into this untested demand here. So this low volume, that coincides, price coincides with this low volume node right here, and basically right around this point of control from Sunday, which isn't necessarily super relevant, but we can see that this was previous flip from Monday and a very relevant price action zone from Monday, and this was both of these zones were marked. This was marked from Monday, so you can see where this is on the profile here, this low volume node of activity. And then we look, and that coincides with these low volume areas here. And then where did price come to? Relevant still today. Is it coincidence? Yeah, well, maybe. But look at exactly almost to the tick where price came to. Didn't get in on this trade, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit. So we have pushed up above this balance area that we've created in here, and something that I noted here, and I drew this before this happened, but right in here is this low volume node, and it's nothing really significant, but it becomes significant in that we see this high volume here, this weak top come up here, push up into this area, and then made this new high. Fairly high volume here, but then what happens when we come down here, we put in volume here, and definitely a possibility to grab this trade either on after this break, but then you got to take a worse price, but in this small retrace at the 90 price, and that's what I was looking at, and to break the highs. But not only that, but on the 15-minute chart we can see where's the expectation, and that's to come up into the lower side of value here, minimum, and then more likely would be to take out all of this weak price and then up into the 37, 38. So that would have been my target, which would have been nearly 50 ticks on the target. And I still like that trade, but at this point, not going to chase it. So just wanted to talk about it a little bit. And this is, I have all of this marked from the overnight session, all of this weakness here to the left. So all of this can be taken out, because what's going to happen is we have liquidity above all of these sellers here. So the 38 would be, probably in this 32, 33, but I mean, I think that's very likely. And now it's frustrating to sit through this choppy, grindy day and now see very likely that all of this is going to go. So this is what I really would call a very subtle trade here, but more so in the past is what I would have been looking at is I wouldn't have traded this, because I would have been looking at this and been like, oh, well, this is a fresh new high. We could also call this almost like a high tick failure, but what's much more important is paying attention to the zones and this area of the flip, and the price is respecting this. So normally I would say, well, no, I wouldn't take this trade, because we also have the ability to push down into this space here, but it just made sense. It still does make sense, and I like the trade, and not just because of the outcome that it worked, but these highs were taken out, but all of this is just super weak price from the overnight session. This trade has really played out. Rather than frustration, I feel glad about how good my read was on this trade. And yeah, I didn't take it and I missed it, but this is the area where I would probably be looking to take this off or manage really, really tightly based on this low volume area here. So 32 would be a great exit. Be a little greedier, look for the price up into the 37, but this thing is traded and played out. And say, well, why does the volume increase? Well, that increase in volume shows what is lying above this liquidity here. So why? Well, because not only were stops triggered above all of these levels of liquidity, but then more longs were coming into this trade, and finally for the continuation. So man, just absolutely perfect, meeting what the expectation was. No, did I know that was going to happen? No, but it played out really, really nicely. And so now all these will get taken off. Here, all of these have been hit, and that idea is over. So not too likely to have any more trades today. Just the one in the morning in the pre-open. This was real choppy. In the past also, I'm pretty happy with how I traded, because normally I would have taken every little high tick that I saw in the past on increased volume. I would have been would have been trying to get a trade here. It'd probably work out and I get my risk off at least, but probably not taking losses. But then potentially in through here, some of these this is somewhat of a valid long try here. But every low tick, every high tick failure, then this one, then I get in here, which again is probably a break even if my price is decent. But I just didn't feel comfortable. Kelly took this trade, the long in here, just grabbing this somewhere in here, but with a stop having to be here, and then this was a weaker looking low to me, so I didn't like that much. But overall, feeling pretty good about my read and how things are going, and would have liked to have participated in this. And this is just a good lesson. Again, trust my read. And this was, I still go back and forth on this again about this one works out. So trying not to be outcome dependent, but with the zone and the previous volume supporting it, and that these highs haven't been taken out yet, this is a valid trade for me. After this push on increased volume, this kind of confirms it. But again, once you confirm the trade, you're getting a much worse price trading in here. In a way, I'd rather be in here after this little mini push, and then retrace back to the volume at 90 with a stop at 83, 7 ticks of risk rather than almost 15. Does this not work out? Yeah, but the context supports the trade. So, and now we can see what's happening here is now we pushed to 36, which was exactly what my expectation was, and my target basically within 1 or 2 ticks. And now we're seeing that we're pulling back here. So now what I'm starting to think about is this low volume node, is this and this high, the confluence of this. What happens when we come up and test this? Are we gonna come up and test this and break, put in new highs, or are we gonna respect this structure and fall back in and fill in some of this space? I would take potentially I am looking for a potential short if we get some kind of volume and failure of this area, either a high tick or a failure of this area before breaking this low. And I would just kind of more of like I would call it more of a counter context scalp, or the possibility of, if we come back down into this volume, have some kind of a failure here to take out these highs. The issue with the long here for me though now is because the higher time frame on the 15. So we are into this fresh supply. This, I would call this untested, this bar low tested now, but we still have minor area. Anywhere from here up into here is still untested supply. So sellers could come in anywhere in here. So a little precarious for the longs, especially with how we've moved up from here on not a very fast moving day and not with a lot of volatility or volume. So, but if I could grab another 10 ticks, we're 27 down to 05, or anywhere in there, looking for this low volume area to fail, a little push trigger down below here, and then holding. So we'll have the flip here, volume here, and then this, we'll mark this as a level of liquidity to go lower. I'm going to try long here, or a short, excuse me. Just can't go higher, it seems like, and I may be asking for trouble here and now on this little low tick, but the price seems real heavy to me here. We've come up, made new highs. I'm going to manage this pretty tight, stop above 40, but I'm going to just be looking for this to trade this down into the 06, these untested bar lows here, and I'm going to be looking to get my risk off pretty quickly here. And pretty good entry, looks like. And we'd like to just see now these lows taken out. And we're trading back into this low volume area, untested bar highs here, 06. I'm going to be not too greedy on this one because I'll even take, I'll probably look to lock in even 10 here. But after the move up, I think pushing into that supply area as well, that this makes sense. This is definitely a little bit of a counter context short, but I like it, and it was just feeling real heavy to me. We made this pushed up on these highs on high volume, and then made a new high here, and then we had this low volume node here. So I'm leaning on this as the flip, this volume for protection. Now we're moving below this volume, so I really feeling real good about this. And here's 10, so I'm guessing that we'll flush these lows, so I'm not going to manage it too tightly here, and see what happens when we come down and flush these lows. So now I'm going to switch to the number bars and look to manage this now from this chart. But really not too much in the way of this trade. High volume coming in now. We'll see, which is expected when we push below these bar lows. But buying, really could come in anywhere here. We had a strong buy response here on increased volume, but I still like it. I'm at break even +1 now. And let's see if we can get it down to that 06. But anything for 10, I really would like to not have this come back in for a break even here. And expectation would be that we easily could come back up to the 30, which is at my entry. So I don't want to give all that back, but I have this volume for protection, so I'll be leaning on this a little bit to hold up. Now, like I said, buying really could come back in anywhere in here. So that's what we're seeing, a little bit of a buy response here. We flushed this low. This is what the low that I would like to see go. And then I'll be looking to lock in something on the trade there. Have 110 contracts on the bid at 73.20, which is, and now they're pulling as well. So buyers still could be here for sure, but price was looking pretty heavy to me. there's no reason to take this off. I mean, I could have taken it off, into here at the 18.17, but the expectation is always for flushes of liquidity. So I'm going to hold for those and see if my trade idea is correct. Maybe not, but we'll see. That buyer is coming back in at the 73.20, coming back in, keeps flashing, and I mean, nothing is trading there, so they're just pulling, but now it's pulled. Now we're trading the 73.20. So let's flush it, and now I'm going to be looking to lock in at least 10 on this trade on the flush of that liquidity there. And I don't want to choke it out either necessarily, because the selling response is pretty good here. So if I just lock in 10 here randomly, it's just, again, trying not to lose, but I'm playing for the move down to fill in that space. I would have liked to have seen it go, but it just doesn't always just go that easily. But not a whole lot of volume coming in, so we're not seeing a real strong buy response, so no reason really to close the trade yet, I don't think, in my opinion. But I would like to see it push here. It's just getting kind of stuck. Real tempted to lock it in here for 10, but I may have to do that if it doesn't go on this next push down here. Oh, this is feeling like it's not going to go, but hard to say. I just moved my stop to 24, and look at that little flush there, just to lock in something on this, but that was a nice little response. Now 110 contracts coming in on the offer now, not much on the bid. So let's see what happens when we push down. It's just can't seem to get below this low at 16. So I don't know, is that buying coming in, or I mean, it doesn't, definitely not unfair price because it's trading a lot there. So to me that means that we are likely to move lower. Can we push here? Come on. 16 needs to go. There's definitely people coming in on the bid there at 16 as well, but they're just pulling like 50 contracts, and the ultimate test will be what happens when we trade that. Is this real buying? I don't think so, because this is acceptance of price here, so no reason for this to turn around at this area. I would expect definitely that we will see lower prices here. Actually, I just said definitely, and that's a big no-no. There's no definites. Likely, in my experience, to see price trade this way. Like, look at this, how much is trading here. This is not unfair price. This is acceptance of price. I'm locking in 10 here. Now the 16 needs to trade and go and flush there, and I'm gonna probably get taken out, but maybe I'll get lucky. Right at that 16 area again, and it traded one price through there, so got 140 contracts on the offer, but it looks like I'm gonna get taken out. Come on, hold. Yeah, I got taken out. I would expect to still see lower prices, but we see, I mean, this was definitely a pretty strong buy response. A lot of volume coming in here, so plus 10 on a little later in the session, that feels pretty good, and that puts me now up at 38, so that's pretty cool. 21 down to 06 would have been another 15, which very likely, but like I said as well, how do you manage this thing? Because wouldn't be surprised if we come all the way back up to 30. That definitely could happen, and that's a retrace to basically get me back to break even. So there's that retrace that I was talking about. So that basically would have definitely taken me out +1, and then even if this holds and comes back down, now we are below this, or we are above this structure here. The low, this is a pretty weak low, but we also had this fairly large increase in volume here, showing that there are likely to be still buyers present here. Stops were likely not triggered because we didn't have a one low tick here, so that's not much of a low tick here. So I think it could go either way. We could definitely see new highs here or come back. I would be surprised if at some point we didn't come back and take this low out though, but not anything that I would want to have risk on here still, because again, this was an expected move, and now we are above this structure, which is a problem for the shorts. If we can get some kind of imbalance move down and hold this area, I would expect the lows taken out, but the trade idea that I was in already kind of played out. I think that's going to be it for me. This is a super long video, over 30 minutes, but a great one for me today. I feel like I read the market well. A couple of really good trades on video, and we'll look to get back at it tomorrow.